Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Tan here. Welcome back to the Medical Saga YouTube channel. Today's topic is a topic that is very close to my heart, which is academic writing, especially case report preparation, which is something that I am truly passionate about. In this video lecture, I'm excited to share with you my knowledge and experience with you. Together, we will walk through the entire process of developing a high quality case report from the initial idea all the way to successful publications. No matter where you are in your medical career, a student, a resident, junior clinicians, or even a seasoned physician, I assure you that you'll definitely find valuable insights in this video. Before we begin, allow me to share with you a glimpse of my own journey in academic writing. Truth be told, my first publication happened during my housemanship under the guidance of Dr. Chong, who was my emergency physician during my ED posting. That experience has sparked my passion in academic writing, and ever since then, I have never stopped writing. So my first case report was actually a case series. It was a case series of erythroderma, but we are writing it from the perspective of emergency medicine. If you like to read more about it, you can actually find out from PubMed or from MGM webpage. And today, I have published more than 10 case reports across different genres. If you would like to explore more about my work, please feel welcome to explore my ORCID account or my ResearchGate account if you have one, or you can simply reach out to me via email. Please do not misunderstand me. This is not meant to show off or to brag about my publications records, but it was rather as a reminder that what is possible even for a person, a doctor like me who is not working in an academic institutions. I believe that is the reality for many of us. If I could do it, so can you. And I sincerely believe that one day many of you could definitely bypass the path that we're taken if you put passions and efforts into this journey. Over the years, I have had the privilege of contributing to a wide range of peer-reviewed index journals. My work often involves multidisciplinary clinical reports, particularly those that explore diagnostic and therapeutic challenges across various fields of medicine. I also serve as a peer reviewer for several index journals, including those listed in PubMed and Scopus. These roles continuously sharpens my perspective on scientific education and the standards of quality research. Therefore, everything I share with you comes not only from my perspective as a writer, but also importantly, from the perspective of a reviewer, which carries the insights that can significantly enhance your chances of writing a strong and successful case report. Before we move into the nitty-gritty of the lecture today, allow me to share with you the outline of the presentation today. We will be briefly discussing on four key ideas here. So first, it will be about why academic writing matters and how it shapes our professional voice. Then we will look at the case report genre, what it is and why it's useful. After that, I will walk you through the basics of crafting a strong case report. And finally, we'll talk about some common pitfalls to avoid. By the end of this lecture, you should gain a clear sense of what makes a case report effective and meaningful, and also importantly, you will also learn how to navigate the common pitfalls in academic writing so that you will have a smooth and pleasant publications journey. Let's begin by reflecting on a famous saying by Sir William Osler, who was also known as our father of modern medicine. Quote unquote, always note and record the unusual and publish it. Place it in a permanent record as a short, concise note. Such communications are always of value. This saying still holds true despite many centuries later. So I believe during your training, you will definitely encounter cases that don't match a textbook, or laboratory abnormality that doesn't quite fit, or a person that responds differently than expected, or a strange constellation of symptoms that make you pause and think. So those are not moments of inconveniences, they are opportunities. And in Osler sayings, it reminds us that it is our responsibility to capture them, not later, not when it's convenient, but immediately, carefully, and deliberately. Because what we document today will become the knowledge someone else will rely on in the futures. In this regards, I'm going to share with you in the next slide, one of the case series that has actually changed the practice of medicines. A classic example of the power of case reports is none other than the historical series on Phocomelia caused by thalidomide. A small case series describes just 3 cases of severe limb malformations in newborns, which were later linked to the teratogenic effects of the drug. Following this initial report, many additional cases were documented, raising awareness in the medical community, and ultimately, this body of evidence led to the withdrawal of thalidomide from the market, preventing countless further birth defects. This example demonstrates how even a small case series can have a profound impact on medicines, influencing drug safety, clinical practice, and public health policy. It highlights the real-world significance and the potential of well-documented case reports. Before we turn our attention to the other important aspect of case report, I think it's important for us to appreciate this evidence-based medicine pyramid. So this pyramid ranks different types of researchers according to their strengths and reliability. As we move up the pyramid, the evidence generally becomes more robust, more generalizable, and less prone to bias. It is noteworthy that case report and case series actually sits at the bottom of this pyramid, or we call it, it forms the foundations of this pyramid. It doesn't mean that they are unimportant, and I'm going to explain to you in the next slides on the importance of case reports. Although case reports are positioned at the base of evidence-based medicine pyramid, they remain as an essential part of the medical literatures. They often provide several unique strengths that other study designs cannot provide. First and foremost, case reports provide detailed anecdotal insights into an individual patient or a small cluster of patients. This level of depth is especially important when dealing with rare or previously unknown diseases. They allow us to document observations that would otherwise never appear in large-scale studies. They also help clinicians in recognizing similar conditions in the future. By sensitizing readers to the unusual presentations, much like early case series that brought attention to Phocomelia, case reports can indeed improve diagnostic awareness across a medical discipline. Another major strength of case report is the ability to generate hypotheses, especially when standard guidelines do not apply or when existing evidence is limited. In this scenario, case reports often become the spark that leads to new research questions or even future clinical trials. Besides, ethical constraints sometimes prevent more rigorous study designs. When it would be unethical to experiment on certain patient groups, case reports provide a safe and valuable alternative for sharing clinical insights. On top of that, case reports are also essential for pharmacovigilance. Many drug reactions, especially rare or unexpected ones, are first identified through case reports, making them a cornerstone of medication safety monitoring. Beyond research, case reports also serve as a powerful educational tool. They are commonly used in CME because they offer real-world clinical scenarios that support learning and critical thinking. Finally, case reports incorporate the patient's perspective. They capture the narrative and life experience behind the medical conditions, something that is often missing in the larger, more structured studies. Overall, while case reports may not provide high-level evidence, they do offer unique value by capturing rare events, generating hypotheses, enhancing clinical awareness, supporting drug safety, and providing meaningful educational content. Their contribution to medical knowledge remains important and irreplaceable. On the flip side, case reports does have important limitations that must be acknowledged when interpreting their findings. Firstly, case reports lack epidemiological strength. Because they involve only one or few patients, they cannot provide measures such as incidence, prevalence, or risk estimates. This might limit our ability to understand how common or significant an observation truly is. Besides, they are also unable to deliver quantitative data. Unlike larger studies that use statistical analysis, case reports only rely on descriptive information. As a result, they cannot provide numerical comparisons, statistical significance, or effect sizes. Another limitation is that the findings from a single case report or case series cannot be generalized to the broader populations. What happens if one patient may not be applied to other patients, so the external validity of a case report is naturally limited. Importantly, case reports cannot establish the cause and effect relationships. They may describe an association, but they cannot determine whether one factor truly caused the outcome. For example, early reports describing limb abnormalities in infants exposed to a certain medications, later known as thalidomide tragedy. The case series did not prove the causation on their own, but they did spark the investigations that eventually uncovered it. Case reports are also susceptible to publication bias and overinterpretations. Rare or dramatic cases are more likely to be published, which can distort perceptions on how frequently certain conditions or outcomes occur. Lastly, confidentiality is always a challenge because case reports include detailed clinical information. It can be difficult to fully protect the patient identity, especially when dealing with rare conditions. Hence, ensuring anonymity requires great care and adherence to the ethical guidelines. In summary, while case reports are valuable for generating insights and hypotheses, their limitations remains obvious, such as lack of generalizability, absence of statistical power, and inability to establish causations. And this must be kept in mind when we are applying these findings to our clinical practice. To convince the junior doctors to start their academic journey, I would like to share with you this Bloom's taxonomy diagram. As you can see here, writing a case report represents the highest levels of the Bloom's taxonomy, which is knowledge creations. And writing a case report is not just a simple documentation, but a rigorous academic exercise that integrates multiple competencies and transforms everyday clinical experience into an original scholarly output. It has a direct impact on clinical practice, not just merely academic achievement. Through academic writing, case reports will help you as a practicing doctor to enhance your analytical and clinical reasoning skills in real-world practice, to strengthen your differential diagnosis and diagnostic accuracy, and also to help you to support clear and evidence-based diagnostic justifications. Also, it will help you in terms of developing sound and reflective therapeutic strategies to promote multidisciplinary collaboration in patient care and encourage insightful discussions among colleagues and peers. On top of that, it will also definitely contribute to your professional growth and career development and ultimately serve as a stepping stone towards a more advanced academic endeavors. A case report or a case series may seem small or limited when viewed in isolation, but its true power emerges when it becomes part of a larger body of evidence. When cited, aggregated, and synthesized, these individual observations can shape comprehensive reviews and influence clinical understanding that will ultimately change the clinical practice. To understand this, I would like to share with you two of my own published case series or case reports that were later incorporated into systematic reviews. And it shows that how one case report or case series can potentially contribute to higher levels of evidence. Now that we have already learned the value and impact of case reports, let us pivot to the crux of this CME, which is how to publish a high-quality case report. Before embarking on the journey of writing a case report, we must ask ourselves these two vitally important questions. Question number one, who would be interested in or benefit from my scholarly work? It's crucial that we consider our audience, who could be clinicians, researchers, trainee, multidisciplinary teams, or even patients indirectly. Knowing our audience will ensure that our report truly addresses a real need and reaches to those who can learn from it. Question number two will be a very cliche question, which is so what? Why is my scholarly work important? What is its value? Ability to reflect on the significance of case report will ensure that you are truly documenting something rare, something that has potential to generate hypotheses, to fill gaps in the literature, to enhance clinical reasoning, or a report that can improve patient care, or even a report that can contribute to future research. Answering these two important questions will ensure your work has impact beyond just being a record of a patient's encounter. As Sir Isaac Newton famously said, "If I have sinned further, it is by standing upon the shoulders of giants." For a smoother journey in academic writing, I would strongly urge novice writers to find a mentor or a guide who has walked the path before. Remember, your work is never created in isolation, and learning from someone who has walked the path before will definitely fast track your growth, strengthen your work, and amplify its impact. Moving on, let's explore the different genres of case reports. Remember, not all case reports are the same, and they can serve different objectives or purposes depending on what are the aim of communications. Understanding the types of common case reports genre can help us to format our case reports accordingly, and ultimately it will help us to formulate our call for actions in the conclusion sections. The first case report genres will be those that are reporting an emerging disease or first reported case. These reports are highly sought after by most of the journals because they document diseases or conditions that have not been described previously. They serve to alert medical community to new health challenges, facilitating early recognitions and management. For example, I would like to share with you one of the publications by my colleague Lau et al., in which their team described one of the first Erdheim-Chester diseases in Malaysia. The second case report genre will be new associations or variations in the disease process. Although it may sound almost similar to the first reported case, but somehow there are some nuances in it. For examples, these kinds of reports describe unusual presentations, unexpected complications, or novel correlations. They will help us to understand the disease mechanisms and variability. The third case report genre will be on disease mimics. They oftentimes lead to diagnostic conundrums. For example, one of the key aspects of such case reports is their ability to highlight disease mimics. Oftentimes, it's conditions that present similarly to common diseases but have a different underlying causes. Recognizing these mimics is critical because they can lead to early diagnosis. If not, it will lead to diagnostic delay, inappropriate management, or even missed opportunities for timely interventions. Another case report genre would be those reporting on unusual or unreported adverse events from treatments. It plays a critical role in pharmacovigilance by documenting unexpected or rare adverse effects of treatments. For example, even well-established therapies can produce uncommon reactions that may not be detected in the clinical trials due to the limited sample size or patient diversity. And hence, documenting these adverse effects in the form of case reports serves many purposes. Number one would be to alert the medical community to potential risks and inform safer prescriptions. And also it contributes to ongoing drug safety monitoring, and eventually it will influence the regulatory decisions makings. And also this can guide further researchers into the mechanisms of adverse reactions or risk factors. I would also like to take this opportunity to dispel some of the myths about case report publications. Trust me, case reports need not to be often the first reported case. It can be cases that have been described or published before this. What is more important to me as a writer as well as a reviewer is that about the educational values of the case reports. To illustrate my points, I have published quite a number of case reports, which may not be the first reported case, like what I have put it up here for you to, take a look later on. I think what is more important is whether does this case reports contribute to the educational resources for our clinicians, and also we need to keep at the back of our minds all these case reports add together, it can form a bigger study or research, which is systematic review, which I have already proven to you in my previous slides. All in all, I think rare but previously reported cases still remain highly valuable and relevant because they can transform isolated observations into practical learning tools for the wider medical community. Another very important case report genre will be case report highlighting therapeutic challenges. Such case reports are particularly valuable when they document therapeutic challenges, highlighting situations where management decisions collide with standard guidelines or established protocols. These reports highlight how clinicians adapt to complex, unusual, or high-risk scenarios in real-world practice, and it serves multiple purposes. Number one, to illustrate decision-making under uncertainty when standard guidelines may not apply. Number two, to share innovative or individualized management strategies with the medical community. Last but not least, it serves to stimulate discussion among the peers about alternative approaches or guideline limitations. Also, lastly, it provides a reference for future similar cases, helping clinicians to navigate complex situations. The case report genres that I had mentioned earlier are just some of those traditional case report genres. In this day and age, the case report genres are actually expanding. For example, there are journals for looking for case reports on clinical care conundrum, or innovation corner, or even visual vignettes, and etc. Hence, before starting your case report writing, I would strongly urge you to identify your target journals first, and oftentimes select more than one suitable journals and align your writing to the journal scope and author guidelines. If you got rejected, then do submit your case report sequentially to the next journals, and this approach would save you ample time. At the same time, it helps you to maintain momentum and increases publication success. Let's learn a thing or two about peer review before we speak about how to craft your manuscript, because the outcome of the peer reviews will decide whether your articles will be accepted or rejected by the journals. In essence, peer review is an essential part of scientific publication process. It ensures that the new research or scholarly work is carefully evaluated before entering the medical literatures. And the key roles of peer review includes scrutiny by experts, in which other specialists in the same field will critically assess your work. And also, this expert will validate the qualities of your manuscript by checking for validity, originality, and accuracy of the research or case reports. And it also serves to improve the clarity and rigor of your report. And lastly, it ensures that ethical standards are met in the research and the reporting process. Article processing, which includes peer review, is indeed a lengthy and laborious process. In the interest of time, I have just highlighted few of the key steps involved from the moment you have submitted your paper for considerations up until publications. If you're interested to learn more, you can find out on the steps of article processing in the description page later on. But all in all, there are some tips that I would like to share with you in the next slide in order to help you to navigate these processes to ensure that you have a smoother article submission journey. Here are some tips that you might want to pay attention when you are submitting your case report for considerations. Number one, please begin by choosing the right journals. This can be achieved by paying close attention to its aims and scope, and ensure that the aims and scope of the journal align with the manuscript that you are submitting. Number two, to review the previously published manuscript to have a clear understanding on the journal's styles and expectations. Number three is always to prepare a high quality manuscript with clear structures and strong clinical reasoning. And it's also important for you to follow the journal guidelines meticulously, as this reflects professionalism and respect for the editorial process. Finally, when reviewers provide feedback, please respond to them professionally and constructively, using their comments to improve quality and impact of your work. But the caveat is that sometimes to some of us, we may not agree with the reviewer's suggestions. You always have the right to rebut the reviewer's suggestions, but this has to be done professionally and ensure that you provide strong reasoning. And if necessary, please provide some referencing to support your claim. Following standardized guidelines is critical for academic writing. For case reports guidelines, we will oftentimes refer to the CARE guidelines, which is a widely accepted framework to ensure clarity, transparency, and completeness in reporting case report. Here are some of the benefits if you are following the CARE guidelines in your articles writing. Firstly, ensure consistency and transparency in reporting. It also increases readability and educational value for clinicians and researchers. Furthermore, it would also facilitate peer review and publications by meeting recognized standards. And also, last but not least, it enhances impact and citation potentials, as well-structured reports are easier to use in research and systematic review. Other guidelines will include the consort guidelines, stroke guidelines, Prisma guidelines, and START guidelines, but these are for others research articles. In the final part of these lectures, we are going to focus on how to craft a case report. And importantly, I will be discussing this from the perspective of a reviewer, in which I'm going to share with you some of the do's as well as don'ts in preparing each of the subsections of your case reports as illustrated here, ranging from title up to references. The title of a case report is the first thing the readers see, and it plays a crucial role in attracting attention and ensuring the report is discoverable. A good article should have the following features. Number one, it should be consistent with the presented problem. It should accurately reflect the conditions, presentations, or clinical issues described in the case. Number two, it should reflect the key message, also known as the unique selling point of your case report. It should be able to highlight what makes the case noteworthy, such as rarity, novelty, or a teaching point. Number three, a good title should highlight the diagnosis or intervention of interest. For example, it should clearly indicate the main clinical focus, whether it's a diagnosis, treatment, or outcome. Last but not least, a good title should be able to enhance the sensitive and specific electronic retrieval. This can be achieved by using keywords that make the article easily searchable in databases, which will directly improve visibility and citation potentials. All in all, an effective title is concise, informative, and designed to attract the right audience while ensuring the case report can be easily found in literature searches. While crafting a title, there are several common mistakes to avoid. A poor title can mislead readers, reduce credibility, and make your article harder to find. Some of the common pitfalls would be, having a misleading title, having an over-dramatized title, or even having a vague title. So the key of preparing a title is ensure that it's concise, accurate, and informative, and your title should reflect the core message, highlighting the clinical focus, and be searchable without exaggerations. Next, let's pivot to the next and also one of the most important components of a case report, which is none other than the abstract. The abstract is often the first and sometimes the only part of a case report that the readers see. It serves as a concise summary, guiding readers on whether to read the full article or not. Here are the key reasons why the abstract is important. Firstly, it provides a clear overview. It summarizes the patient's presentations, diagnosis, management, and outcomes. Furthermore, it also highlights the significance of the case report. It helps in terms of conveying why the case is noteworthy, such as its novelty, rarity, or educational value. On top of that, it also enhances the discoverability of your article. Hence, well-chosen keywords in the abstract is crucial. It will help to improve electronic searches and citation potential. Besides, it also attracts readership. A clear, concise, and informative abstract encourages clinicians and researchers to read the full report. Last but not least, a good abstract will support evidence synthesis. Abstracts are often used in literature reviews and databases, which help systematic reviewers identify relevant cases. In short, a well-written abstract is not just a summary. It is a critical tool for communications, visibility, and impact of your case report. After learning about the importance of an abstract in a case report, now let's turn our attention to the abstract structure. Most journals will require abstracts to be between the length of 150 to 250 words. And the typical structure will include 3 sections. So the first section will be introductions, which serve to briefly state the context and rationale for reporting the case. For example, why is this case noteworthy and what is the background behind these conditions or diseases. The second sections will be the case report or case presentations, which aim to summarize the patient's presentation, diagnosis, investigation, interventions, and outcomes. It focuses on the key clinical details without excessive elaborations. The final part of an abstract will be conclusions, also known as the take-home message. It highlights the main learning point, clinical significance, or implications for future practice. Adhering to word limits and maintaining a concise, structured format will help to increase the readability, discoverability, as well as ensuring that your abstract communicates the case importance effectively. This slide is just to illustrate to you that depending on the journal requirements, sometimes the case report abstracts may vary to some degree. For example, on my left-hand side, this excerpt shows that some journals would actually ask for a structured abstract in which you need to clearly divide your abstract into 3 components, which is normal. It will definitely start off with introductions, followed by case report, and end with conclusions. On the other hand, the abstract over my right hand side is actually an unstructured abstract, but somehow it still follow the rule of thumb of preparing abstract, which we always start introduction, case report, and conclusion. And also you can realize that the length of the abstracts are actually quite different. On the left hand side, they ask you to you can prepare your abstract to be as long as 250 words. On the right hand side, this abstract is only 150 words because of the journal's requirement, and hence you need to really understand what the journal requirements. But as far as you follow the rule of thumb that I have given you earlier, I think you should be able to prepare an effective extract that encapsulate all the key lessons in your case report. Next, we're going to take a look at some of the common pitfalls made when preparing an abstract. So one of the most common mistakes made would be including too many unnecessary details in abstract. This will overload the abstract with minor information that can eventually dilute the key message, or sometimes it can even confuse the readers. Number 2 would be inability to craft a concise case report. So if your case report abstract is not concise enough, it will not be able to summarize your case effectively, and occasionally it will lead to you exceed the word limits that can ultimately reduce the clarity of the abstract. So another common pitfalls would be missing out key diagnostic tests or findings in the abstract. So omitting these informations will undermine the clinical relevance of the abstract. Last but not least, I think it's also important for us to remember that we must always highlight the key take-home message in the abstract so that our readers can quickly understand the significance of the lesson by just looking at the abstract. So all in all, the goal of preparing an abstract is that we want to ensure that the abstract is concise, informative, and it should be able to clearly convey the case relevance, key findings, learning points, while remaining within the journal's word limits. Now we are going to take a look at another subsection of a case report, which is the introductions. So the introduction sets the stage for your case report. It provides context, explains why the case is important, and positions it within the existing medical literatures. So here are the key purposes of the introduction in the case report. Firstly, it provides context or background. It briefly summarizes relevant information to help readers understand the case. Number 2, it explains or defines the rare conditions. It's useful for readers who may not be familiar with the disease, representations, or complications that you're going to discuss in your case report. Number 3, it emphasizes the importance or relevance of your case. For example, it highlights why the case matters for clinical practice, research, or education. And also, importantly, it states the knowledge gap or problem by defining the unique selling point or USP of your case and what makes it noteworthy of reading. Last but not least, it also cites pertinent references. It's to support your statements with relevant literatures and show the case place in the existing literatures. In a nutshell, a well-written introduction will prepare the reader to appreciate the novelty, relevance, and educational value of the case, making them eager to read the full report. A rule of thumb of having a strong introduction would be to keep it concise and focused and avoid repeating details that will appear later on in the case presentation or discussion sections, and clearly set up the rationale for reporting this case. The case report sections is the heart of your manuscript. It provides a detailed, objective, and chronological account of the patient journey from presentation to outcome. And the key purposes of a case report is to provide an in-depth narrative. It offers sufficient clinical details to help readers to understand the case fully. Besides, it serves to report objectively. It should only present facts clearly and without personal bias or speculations. Lastly, it should present the case in a chronological order. It should allow the patient's journey to unfold itself step by step by following a typical case write-up. We will always start with history, examinations, investigations, interventions, and outcomes. For first-time case report writer, I will strongly urge you to take a look at the case report guidelines, also known as the CAG guidelines, where it has actually highlighted all the important components of case report in the checklist forms. For example, a case report should include relevant patient information such as demographic, medical history, and risk factors. And also, a good case report should report clinical findings and diagnostic workup in detail but concisely. It also tells you that you should clearly describe the therapeutic interventions and rationale behind it. And a good case report should also include the documentations of the patient follow-up and outcomes, including complications or resolutions of the original disease. And always use subheadings, timelines, or table if needed to enhance clarity. All in all, if you follow these care guidelines, you should be able to prepare a well-structured case report that allows readers to follow your clinical reasoning, learn from your management approach, and importantly, understand the significance of your case report. In the usual manuals, I always share with you what are the pitfalls to avoid. So here are some of the common pitfalls that we commonly observe when we are reading a case report. So number one would be missing out pertinent clinical findings. Omitting these clinical signs, symptoms, or tests will weaken your case report. And sometimes we realize that the differential diagnosis was not considered or ruled out in the case report. This shows that the writer failed to demonstrate clinical reasoning and decision making. And also, not uncommonly, the diagnostic and therapeutic reasoning is not provided or justified. This is important because readers need to understand why certain decisions were made, especially in a complex case. And also, sometimes because of poor structuring, it may seem that the case report lack of logical flow. For example, the authors may present information in a confusing or non-chronological order. All this will reduce the clarity of your report. And sometimes the authors may fail to highlight the multidisciplinary approach. This is very important, when we are writing a case report that is complicated, we should always, highlight the multiple specialties involved. Besides, not uncommonly, sometimes the authors may not provide justifications when the management deviates from guidelines. This information is critical for unusual therapeutic choices. And also, not uncommonly, sometimes the drug dosages are not specified. Like what I mentioned earlier, it's important to provide clear details in a case report because sometimes all these case reports could be used to synthesize bigger data like systematic review. And all these drug dosages will be essentials for reproducibility and educational value. And also it's important for me to emphasize that we should present the case in a chronological manner. If needed, we need to provide timeline, to make it easier for us to follow the progression of the case. And also importantly, we need to avoid using emotive language. Remember, a case report should be reported objectively and scientifically. Last but not least, no follow-up information was provided sometimes in a case report. Omitting outcomes will reduce the clinical and educational impact. All in all, avoiding these pitfalls will ensure that your case report is clear, objective, clinically meaningful, and valuable for both clinicians and researchers. Another key component of a case report would be figures and tables. Figures and tables are powerful tools that complement the narrative of the case report. They help convey complex information clearly and allow readers to quickly understand the key findings. So best practices would be we need to ensure that the figures and tables should be interpretable as a standalone documents. For example, figures and tables should be understandable on their own without needing to refer back to the text. And also we need to ensure that the tables and figures are properly processed to ensure the images are of high quality, appropriately labeled, and formatted according to the journal's author's guidelines. And also remember to provide clear legends. Each figure and table should have a concise and informative legend explaining its contents and significance. And also do not forget that when you're preparing a figure, please anonymize patient identifiers by removing any information that could reveal the patient's identity in order to maintain confidentiality and comply with ethical standards. By following these principles, your figures and tables will enhance clarity, support your narrative, and increase the educational and clinical value of your case reports. Now we'll turn our attention to another important session, which is the discussion sessions of a case report. The discussion is where you interpret your findings, place the case in context, and highlights its clinical and academic significance. These sessions demonstrate critical thinking and scholarly insight. Here are the key components that we should consider, having it in the discussions. So number one would be epidemiology of the conditions. By briefly summarize relevant prevalence, incidence, or demographic patterns. Number two would be to compare and contrast with published cases, highlighting similarities or differences with previous reported cases. And also most importantly, critical analysis and evaluations of the literatures to assess the quality, relevance, and implications of prior studies. And it is also important for the authors to provide insightful synthesis of discussions by integrating ideas and concepts to construct a logical and meaningful discussions. And also, it's important for the authors to provide reflections and discussions by discussing the lessons learned, clinical reasoning, and implications for practice that can be learned from this case. And also, a well-written discussion should be substantiated by up-to-date literatures. Always support the interpretations with current and peer-reviewed references. It's also important for the authors to include the strengths and limitations of the report. Acknowledge what are your case contributions and its boundaries. Last but not least, if possible, always recommend the knowledge gap that remains in order for the future team to work on it. For example, by suggesting a research questions, further studies, or implications for clinical practice. All in all, a well-written discussion bridges your case with existing knowledge, demonstrates clinical analysis, and provides practical and academic insights that would benefit clinicians and researchers alike. Here are some of the pitfalls that we need to avoid when preparing our discussions. Number one will be having a biased discussions. Though this can be prevented by avoiding personal opinions or selective reporting. Please focus on objective analysis of your case. Number two would be irrelevant discussions. In order to prevent this, please ensure that your discussion flows logically and stay focused on the case and its clinical or academic implications. So number three will be little or no evidence of critical analysis or evaluation of literatures. So simply summarizing prior reports is insufficient. We need to critically appraise, compare, and synthesize the findings. So avoiding these pitfalls will ensure that your discussion will be coherent, evidence-based, and valuable for readers, reinforcing the educational and scholarly importance of your case report. The discussion is often the longest section of a case report. Therefore, it makes sense for authors to invest time in mastering the skills needed to construct an effective paragraph. Personally, I find this method very useful and I'm going to share it with you. Here are the suggested paragraph flow. Always start your paragraph with an opening statement, which serves to introduce the main idea or focus of the paragraph. And also remember to add literatures into your paragraphs, especially literatures that provide a balanced view by summarizing relevant studies, highlighting both supporting and contrasting evidence. And always try to tie it back to your case by connecting the literature to your specific case and emphasizing its relevance, and to discuss the similarities and differences by comparing your case with the prior reports, noting the unique aspects or deviations, and end your paragraph with a closing statement to conclude the paragraph with a takeaway message or insight that links to the next point. Using these structures will ensure clarity, critical analysis, and logical flow, making your discussions more impactful and also easier to follow by your readers. The conclusions is the final opportunity to leave a strong impressions on your readers. Hence, it should be concise, focused, and actionable. Here are the key elements of a conclusions. The first would be the snapshot of the case. It should summarize the essence of the case in a few sentences. It should be crisp and efficient, and it should have a key take-home message highlighting the main lessons or clinical insight, or it should have a call for actions suggesting implications for practice, research, or future investigations. All in all, a well-crafted conclusion reinforces the significance of your case, leaves readers with a clear message, and may inspire future research or clinical improvement. Before moving on, let's briefly review some of the common pitfalls that can weaken your case report conclusions. So one of the common issues is overt generalizations where the conclusions extend beyond what a single case can support. Another pitfall is drawing conclusions that do not clearly align with the findings of the reported case. Before we end the lectures, we are going to pay attention to the last part of a case report, which is referencing. So references provide the foundations for your case report. It shows that how your work fits into the existing knowledge and supporting your discussions. For best practice, always use updated references by citing recent and relevant studies to ensure your report reflects current knowledge. And if possible, always refer to landmark papers. These are foundational studies that are highly regarded in that particular field. And always provide appropriate accreditations, give proper credit to original authors, and avoid plagiarism at all costs. Always peruse and appraise the cited work. Please make sure that you read and critically evaluate the resources or the sources that you cite to ensure accuracy and relevance. In conclusions, careful selections and accurate citations of references can enhance the credibility, scholarly value, and impact of your case report. Now we are going to pay attention to the pitfalls to avoid. Trust me, even a well-written case report, it can lose credibility if the references are mishandled. So here are the common pitfalls. Number one will be inappropriately formatted references, in which the authors fail to follow the journal citation style It reduces the professionalism and sometimes may lead to rejection from the very beginning during desk review. The number two mistake would be only performing hand searches and citing other papers' references. Avoid citing sources without reading the original articles. This can propagate errors. Number three, never appraising or reading the articles cited. Just like what I mentioned before, is like citing without critical relations. This would risk including irrelevant or even inaccurate information for your readers. Number four, I think one of the biggest mistakes is non-existing citations. Most of the time it happens due to cross-referencing errors. Hence, please ensure all references cited in the text actually exist and are correctly numbered or linked. Avoiding these pitfalls will ensure your references are accurate, credible, and professionally presented. Further reinforce the scholarly quality of your case report. Here are some of the most frequently used citation management tools, which include EndNote, Mentally, and Zotero. Among these, Zotero is available for free and it is easy to use. These tools are incredibly helpful and it provides an efficient management and organization of references. Imagine you have more than 20 references in a case report. Manually switching references from one citation style to another can be very time consuming. On top of that, different journals will require different reference styles, such as AMA, Vancouver, APA, and others, making it essential for us to have this software tool to help us to update the references effortlessly. Additionally, updating or reorganizing the reference order when adding or deleting references within the text can be tedious if done manually. This citation software allows the users to switch between different reference styles with just one click, automatically updating both the formatting and reference order. Using these tools will ensure the references remain accurate, properly formatted, and compliant with the journal requirements, making the resubmission process much smoother. If you would like to learn more about referencing in academic papers, please feel free to reach out to me. Before we end these presentations, let us briefly review informed consent in case report publications. Patient consent is an essential process and it is critical to the ethical publication of case reports, and it is a central requirement for publications. Anonymization alone is not sufficient to remove the need for consent, and the practical aspects of obtaining consent can be complex sometimes. There are situations in which a patient may not be able to provide consent for the publication of a case report. In such cases, an individual case-by-case approach should be taken. When the patient is a child, consent should be obtained from a parent or legal guardian. However, if the child is mature enough to understand the situation, their assent should be also sought, even if they are not legally able to provide consent in the author's jurisdiction. If the patient is deceased, consent should be obtained from the closest relative. In situations where the patient and all their relatives are uncontactable despite the author's best effort, the author should seek guidance from their research ethics council or institutional review boards for consent waiver, if possible. I would also like to take the final opportunity to share with you some advice that I wish I had been told earlier. Publishing case reports and other scholarly work is only one part of our academic journey, and to really build your academic presence is important to actively manage your research profile, and doing so can increase your visibility, build credibility, and create opportunities for collaborations. Here are a few platforms that I would recommend for those who are into academic writing. It helps you to archive your work and share it with your colleagues. First will be an ORCID account, which stands for Open Researcher and Contributor ID. ORCID gives you a unique identifier so that your work is clearly linked to you, even if there are other researchers within the same name. It also ensures that all your publications are connected to your profile, making it easier for others to find your work. Second, ResearchGate. This platform lets you share your publications, ask questions, and collaborate with peers from all over the world. It can also help in increasing your citations and encourage academic discussions around your work. Third, Publons, or the Web of Science Researcher profile. This platform allows you to track your peer review activities and editorial contributions, which shows your academic service and impact beyond just publications. By using these platforms, you are not only just publishing your work, you are actively building your academic reputations, and it will open doors for future collaborations. Here is the final slide, and before I end the presentations, I would like to share with you the support that I can offer. I'm truly passionate about teaching and sharing knowledge. My goal is to help make your academic journey smoother, easier, and more rewarding. And my approach is simple: to guide your work thoughtfully and in a way that aligns with your goals without over-promising or overselling. If my experience can help your writing journey a little easier, I'll be glad to walk the path with you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have picked up a few useful tips about case reports writing. Remember, the key is to just start writing and experiment for yourself. Don't wait for everything to be perfect, as writing is a skill that improves with practice. Every case report that you draft, every reference you manage, and every bit of feedback that you receive is a step forward in your academic journey. So take the first step, learn as you go, and enjoy the process, because that's how you truly grow as a researcher or as an academic writer. All the best and good luck. See you in the next